Title: The Slowest Rain. Settle in for a quiet observation of an afternoon where time seems to stretch and the rain falls with a deliberate, almost reluctant grace. Experience the subtle shifts in light, sound, and atmosphere as a gentle drizzle transforms a simple workshop. This extended version delves deeper into Elias's thoughts and the minute details of the slow rainfall. This afternoon? Oh, it wasn't really a storm, more like a big drawn-out sigh. It kicked off with that kind of rain that doesn't actually fall, you know? It just shows up on stuff, like a quiet dampness blooming on the dusty windows of Elias's workshop. He just kinda looked up from the birdhouse he was working on, the wood still smelling faintly of cedar and sawdust. Those neat cuts and smooth curves on the wood seemed to soak up the fading light, getting all soft and blurry. Then, plop. A single big droplet splattered on the glass, then another, spreading out like ink blots. Elias watched them merge, totally hypnotized by how slow they were. It wasn't that booming drum roll of a real downpour, or even the fun pitter-patter of a quick shower. Nope, this was a super deliberate, almost reluctant descent of water. Each drop was like a tiny, perfect little ball, just hanging there for a second before, finally, reluctantly, giving in to gravity. The air, already heavy and muggy, seemed to get even thicker, like the whole atmosphere was slowly letting out a deep, long breath of water. He picked up a small, smooth piece of sandpaper and just ran his thumb over it, feeling the grit. What a cool contrast to the liquid quiet outside. The light in the workshop, already pretty dim from the cloudy sky, turned this deep, murky gray, throwing long, soft shadows from his tools, the hammer chilling next to a chisel, the saw propped against a pile of wood. Every shadow seemed to stretch out, blurring the edges of his usual workspace. He could just barely make out the shape of the old mango tree outside, its leaves all shimmery with a hesitant glow, like tons of tiny mirrors reflecting the dull sky. Each leaf, it seemed, was collecting its own little bead of water, holding it so carefully, trembling just a bit before finally, reluctantly, letting it go to join the damp ground below. He found himself really listening, not for the sound of rain, but for all the other sounds that weren't there. The faraway hum of traffic, usually always in the background, had faded to barely a knee. Even the chirping of the sparrows that often nested in the eaves was gone, replaced by this almost spooky quiet. The only thing breaking it was the occasional, super quiet, as a particularly brave drop found its way to the corrugated iron roof. It was such a delicate sound, it felt like a secret just for him. Elias leaned back on his stool, staring out the window. He thought about all the stuff he could could have been doing. Finishing the birdhouse, sharpening his chisels, sorting his wood scraps. But this slow rain just had him hooked, you know. A gentle, insistent presence that seemed to stretch out time itself. He felt this weird sense of peace, a quiet surrender to the unhurried rhythm of the afternoon. The world outside had just slowed right down, and he, for once, was totally fine slowing down with it. 10 minutes felt like an hour, each second a tiny, perfectly formed droplet, now stretching into a whole 15 minutes, each moment a deliberate, unhurried breath. He watched as the dampness on the glass started to streak, forming little rivers that snaked their way down, leaving faint, shimmering trails. The world outside was a picture of muted greens and grays, all soft and blurry from the watery veil. And Elias was just watching, lost in the quiet, profound slowness of that rainy afternoon.